It's 6 o'clock. Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Chief, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Skinner.
Here.
Councilmember Wynn.
Here.
Councilmember Spargo.
Here.
Councilmember Collette.
Present.
Councilmember Ansich.
Present.
So before the approval of agenda, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda this evening. And my motion is for the agenda item to be discussion items only, not action items this evening. And the reason for that is that we have put out some other RFPs to other departments. We do not have all the information to make an educated decision this evening about the services that we want to see in our community as far as police and that. So is there a second?
I second.
Is there
No. You need a motion.
Is there a motion? Thank you.
I'd like to motion that we approve the agenda with those amendments, and I have a couple of other amendments I would like to suggest.
Okay, and I have a couple more I want to add on to that.
All
Is there
right.
a second to that?
Do we need to go through each separately, or?
Well, there's a motion on the floor right now.
So,
You need
So-
to make a separate motion.
so, thank you, Commissioner Raines. I'll refer to our attorney. I'm new at this, and some of it I may not quite get, but thank you. So, as I was checking about how to do this motion today, I was told that I could combine 3 into 1. Is that correct? Or should I do separate?
Well, actually, you can't make a motion yet. Only the council members can.
I will make a motion
Okay.
that we approve the agenda with the amendments, that all items are for discussion only. I have to leave here at 7:30, folks. I'm very sorry, but I'm going to, in light of that, request that we move public comments to the end. There's already public comments at the end. But so to allow everyone on the council to have time to hear both proposals and discuss fully. I'm asking for that amendment. And I do have some council comments to make, so I'm asking for the amendment that council comments occur as item 4.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So passed. So as we move on, Mayor's message, I know there's a lot of comments, a lot of concern about our budget, which there should be. We are in the deficit. I do want to assure each and every one of you from day one when I took this office, we have been having department head meetings. This is not taken lightly. I don't know, probably in the past year, the number of meetings that this council or this staff or administrator, the number of meetings that I have called to look at the budget and to come to the table to try to resolve some of the issues that we're facing. We will keep you informed. We will probably be having more than one council meeting a month until we get through this process. So please be patient with us. At the end of this, just a reminder, comments, they're only comments, 3 minutes, no discussion on anything other than the topic on this special meeting today. So moving on, Chief Lehman, you had a,
I think he wanted.
oh, I'm sorry. And so Jeremy,
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. Yeah, I'll try to keep these comments brief, although I do have a lot to say. There are 3 points that I want to make before we approach the discussion items on the agenda for this evening. And I want to preface those points by just sharing a bit about myself again and why I'm on this council. And in particular, I want you to take note of just how many folks are in this room. There are many different feelings about the financial situation that we're in. And when you have this many people together with this much at stake, there are bound to be conflicts of interest, there are bound to be miscommunication, there's bound to be misinformation. I think we've seen a lot of that even just in our past meeting. For myself, I do not have any significant conflicts of interest I don't have any business interest in Cosmopolis. I don't have any personal relationships in Cosmopolis, to be frank with you, aside from my lovely wife, Jane. But I am a citizen here and I'm a public servant. And so my intention here is to provide you with sound judgment and guidance that is free of any such conflicts of interest. Having said that, 3 points I would like to make sure that every citizen in Cosmopolis is aware of. Number 1, the general fund will run out of money in March. Everything that we're discussing here today will not change that fact. The general fund will run out of money in March. The general fund is not the only fund in Cosmopolis. It is a big fund, it is an important fund, but it is one of, I think, 16 funds. So the city's not broke. The general fund will run out of money in March. And none of the items that we're discussing tonight will change that. With that, I have to express my frustration because I have asked numerous times, what happens when the general fund runs out of money? And I do not have those answers. And I am, as you might be able to ascertain, I'm furious. I'm furious that I don't have those answers and you don't have those answers. So I really want to know what happens in March when the general fund runs out of money. What services will be affected? Is the state going to come in and perform an audit? Are they going to sell our town? I don't know. And so, of course, we're all in a state where our imaginations are running wild because we don't know what's going to happen. And I've asked repeatedly for those answers, and those answers have not been forthcoming. And that makes me feel very frustrated with the people that I'm working with right now, to be frank. I have communicated my requests for that information to the mayor, and she has tried to get that information from her staff. And constantly what I hear back is that we don't have an answer to that yet. I have not heard back yet, or I have not received a complete answer, or in some cases have been told I will not have that answer by the next meeting. So to me, it is unacceptable that to a really important question like that, we do not all have an answer. I am angry for you. The second point I would like to make is that the only way the general fund does not run out of money in March is if we bring in new revenue. And it's really difficult to bring in new revenue in a week. I don't know if at this point there are any options. I have discussed with my family, could we potentially purchase a city asset to put funds in the general account and potentially have the city purchase that back in the future. That's the kind of sort of desperate negotiations that we're entertaining, is just what can we do? But at this point, don't have enough information about what that would look like. Are there legal or practical issues that would prevent us from exploring options like those? And again, I have requested a list of assets for the city that could be made available for sale. And I have not received those, and I'm quite frustrated that those options are not being explored. And my third point is that this conversation that we're going to have today is important, but I will reiterate, it is not going to generate revenue for March. It is not going to prevent the general fund from running out of money in March. At best, if we were to adopt one of these solutions, then we might avoid another interruption of services or something at the end of Q2, when we have a different pool of revenue to work with. But I have asked, what does the annual budget look like? What are we looking at for quarter two? And I don't have those answers either. So one of the reasons that I am pretty adamant that this is a discussion meeting also is that we don't have enough information to be making decisions that affect the future of Cosmopolis. And as far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't even be having this particular meeting. We should be having a meeting that goes over this is a meeting about what does our fiscal year look like when the question is, how do we feed the kids next month? All right, if you want to compare it to a household budget, you can look at your revenue and your expenditures and see, oh, okay, we have to cut back costs this year. That's where we are right now. But right now, we don't have money for the next month. So I'm just going to ask city staff right now, give us some indication. So when the general fund runs out next month, staff, who of you will be raise your hand if your hours will not be affected, if you will be working full-time in the month of March, please.
Co-working.
I don't understand.
If you will be working your normal hours.
Solely under the utility,
What's that?
what, water, sewer, streets, stormwater utility.
So you'll be working in the
Entering
month of
bar.
March,
Yeah.
unaffected, thank
I'm
you.
not gonna have nobody to pay me, but I'll still be working.
Okay, well, that's also an important distinction.
Mhm.
Raise your hand, please, if you know that your hours will be reduced for the next month.
Reduced alone or reduced and gone?
Reduced, but still remaining. Okay, would you raise your hand if you know for certain that you will not be working in the month of March? Okay, so one person on our city staff and presumably your reports as well. Folks, this is why I'm so furious. Why do we not have this information? You need to know exactly what.
I do have to stop because Jeremy is comment, so we can't ask any questions, but I understand because we all have those comments. Until our next meeting, we will look at how we address your concerns because they are valid.
Thank you. Okay, then I'll just end my comment by underscoring that the proposals that we're going to discuss today are not going to get us through March. And I ask you all to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Are there any other comments from other councilmen tonight?
I do have a few, Madam Mayor.
Okay, Mr. Collette.
Just a couple of things that I want to point out. Number one, excuse me. We have faced tough times before. I've researched the history of our town, and we've gone through periods where the mill has been shut down for extended periods. I'm talking many years. It was shut down in the 1930s in the depths of the Great Depression. We still survived. We hung on. We kept our police department, and we kept going. It was shut down until Weyerhaeuser bought it in 1957. We still kept going. This is well, throughout those tough times, I mean, when you're talking the Great Depression, you were talking times when people didn't know if they were gonna have enough to eat the next day. It was tough. I've read a lot about it. I've researched a lot on that period. We still kept our police department. And it is something that, the fact that we're even discussing going another direction. I mean, we have to look at everything, yes. But if they were able to make it without having to disband our police department, we should be able to do the same. That is all I have to say.
Any other comments?
I'll pass.
I will add one more comment before we move on. There were the comments from the audience last week. It's nobody's fault. You know, the mill went down. I'm sorry. People need to look at past administration before that. When we had good times, money was spent. It should have been saved. It should have been put back. And during the tough times, cuts should have happened. We should have been exploring it. So all of us walked into a mess here, and we're having to make some tough decisions. And I don't even know if I'll have a friend when this is over and done. I know, because I know the people that care about me know that I'm working 100%, and we may have to make some tough cuts. So with that said, when you say, oh, it's all on the mill, no, it's management. It is management. And you can shake your head and smile, but when you're not sitting down and having budget meetings and saying, where do we need to cut? And you pass a budget that you're paying health insurance and it increases 4%, and you're paying 100% of health insurance for employees out of the general fund, you better be looking at it. So don't tell me that it's all about the mill. It's not. Okay, we're going to move on. So presentation from the police chief tonight.
Thank you. It's going to be very short, to the point. Two proposals from the sheriff's office were received. I'm assuming that more can be presented from them when it comes time. $204,752 by the time we get to 26, but right now this year the price is $183,968. That's 24-hour coverage for the community. That's a response to all calls for service. Emergency calls that you get, they will respond. And I'd like to encourage you all to keep in mind that the sheriff's office is a great and professional law enforcement agency, and they will serve you well if that's the choice that you do. It does not include any proactive patrol time, just response to calls. If a deputy is in the area, that just quoting what's provided, they could provide proactive patrol at their discretion. The second proposal was $367,937, again, a 6% increase per year going forward. 24-hour coverage for the city as well for response to calls for service that come in, and would include several hours of proactive patrol in the city of Cosmopolis. I would encourage you to find out if that's per day, per shift, per week, per month. We do not have a third proposal available yet. One of the suggestions that was made that we solicit from any agency that was interested in entertaining it was to have a hybrid of keeping one or even two of our officers and maybe a couple hours a week of our clerk, with the supplementation of other agencies for those after hours have been already fulfilled, including cutting myself to early staff time. Those answers aren't in yet. However, option one, option two, and option three, to me, are very difficult to look at or make any decisions or even a recommendation from, because I don't know how much money I have to work with to make those decisions. I will say that myself and the two remaining staff are ready and waiting to be laid off. And until that occurs, we are committed to serving you, and we will answer the calls when they are made. And until we are released, we will do that with all of our hearts and abilities. That is the only presentation that I have to give to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on. Okay, do we have the sheriff department here this evening? Did you want to speak to your proposal?
I'm here to answer any questions you have of our proposal. He's hit it on the head. Two-person response would include several hours of proactive patrol. This is something, I don't want to be here. I don't want to hear. I want you guys to have your own police department. Everybody loves their own cops, whether it's Aberdeen, Hoquiam, Ocean Shores, whatever community, and you love your own cops. So I don't want to be here to take that spot of Cosmopolis Police Department. I'm only here to help provide law enforcement services if that goes away. So two-person would be several hours of patrol per shift, or not per shift, per day. So we're gonna, if this happens, we would hire two people. So we have two teams that we work on. So we'd have one person on one team and one person on the other team to cover Cosmopolis. 4 days on, 4 days off. Our idea, and we're just kind of throwing around because it's all new to us, We might incorporate our South Beach resident program into the Cosmopolis, and then that way a resident deputy could actually live in Cosmopolis. So it's still, you know, a work in progress. We don't know exactly. It's going to be, you know, let's see how it works and tweak it as we go along. So the one person proposal, it's just calls for service. We'll respond to calls for service if we're in the area. We'll do some proactive work, but we'll handle the call, and then, you know, we have other duties too that we do in the county, and we would just incorporate that. Two-person, you'd actually get proactive patrol, but it's not going to be like your service now where, you know, $1 million is actually the right amount of money for a police department for 24-hour coverage, you know, to have that 3-minute response to your house. You're not going to get that in the county. I think I've heard someone say that before. Another option is Aberdeen Police Department. I think that's just proximity-wise, that's another option. I'm not sure if anybody likes that idea, but if you want quicker responses, Aberdeen Police Department would be your better bet. I'm here to answer any questions anybody has.
So it's not open for questions, but comments, and we appreciate your presentation tonight. So moving to council comments.
I got one. So next month, we're gonna be negative $63,000. Well, you know, we're out of money. I've never woke up with a negative bank account before. Now that I've been an elected official, I wake up every day with a bank account that doesn't exist, but it's a number that I see. 63,000 is a lot of money. That number is gonna keep going up. These are tough things we gotta try to figure out. So with $63,000 negative, Chief Lehman said that he wouldn't be working next month because we'd be out of money, right?
That would be my assumption based upon, you know.
So if we're out of money, we no longer have a 3-second response. We no longer have a patrol. We no longer have a police force. So I hate to try to force anything, try to rush anything, but if we don't have a police force next month, then what do we do? Who are we gonna expect to show up at our house? Chief Ollie has been reconstructing the fire department, so we do have aid response now, so thank you for that. But those guys are, still learning, and, their responses are getting quicker and quicker. I've been looked at like a bad man over the last 7 days since last meeting. I'm not trying to be the bad guy, I'm just trying to be realistic, so that's all I have.
Any other comments this evening?
Madam Mayor, we've been at this 7 weeks, and I'm no different than the rest of them. I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep because I'm thinking about what in the heck did I get myself into? Or what do we do? I'm a citizen, been here 30 years. I do have a stake in it. I want to stay here, and I want the coverage, and I want the benefits that we had. And I don't think we've looked as far as we can. Just in a couple of questions that I went out and asked, I found out that we're paying insurance on a building that we don't even have access to. I asked about property for sale. Do we have any? We got some swampland. But that doesn't tell me whether it's available to be sold or not. And I didn't dig into that. I went with that as, okay, we got some swampland. There's sure in the hell a lot of it around here. So, okay, that goes on. But I do believe, and then I also, this statement came out last time that we're going to be in the deficit at the end of the month. Then I walk away and I'm told, no, there is revenue somewhat that does come in. We don't know how much, but I get one side of, woe is me, it's terrible, and we've got to make this action and make this action only. No, I gotta believe that, again, he thought he was a bad man for 7 days, I'm gonna be for the next month. We can furlough employees to save money. I don't know how that system works, but I do know it's out there for us. Whether it's 1 day a week or you take a whole week off out of a month. Those options are there. We just have to explore them and not be scared to bring them up. No more than Councilman Spargo did with his on this idea of the Sheriff's Department. These other ones have to be explored as well. And we can't do it instantly. It's going to take time. We got ways of cutting back expenses. They're not popular with anybody. I'm no different than anybody else. I don't want to lose a dollar out of what income I have. But to keep things going, I might have to. So we have to explore more and more and more of this and give us time. I know it's drastic. Now I hear a new number of $60,000. I'm like, Councilman Wynn, I haven't had these numbers. I know they've been asked for an updated budget. We did lay off police officers. That's had to have made a difference. There's things that we laid off one of the workers in the city hall itself. That had to have made a difference. I understand we parked the vehicles. That had to have made a difference. Show me what we are and where we are. I do ask for that. That's it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
What does happen next month? I mean, that's, like Jeremy, that's a very legitimate question.
That's a very legitimate
What
question.
happens when,
And I've been asking that from day one. I have.
I don't, Councilman Skinner mentioned furloughs. Well, the furloughs, I don't see that being the answer to a problem when you would be furloughing Darren's, Jeff's, City Hall staff. Those wages are covered out of the utilities. Those are self-funded. What we're trying to do is come up with.
So we will look at the percentage that comes out of the general fund. Is that off the table? Nope, that's not off the table. Going down to 4 days a week, is that off the table? No. Looking at insurance, is that off the table? No. Well, staff has co-pays, like probably everybody in this room. I bet there's not one of you out there that has 100% insurance coverage for you and your dependents. For eye and dental, that's going to change. Tough decision. Is my staff happy with me? They're not happy. They greeted me with smiles, now I just get stale. I'm not in this to be popular. You voted me in. I'm not gonna give up, and I'm gonna work hard. And I can see faces and expression, not gonna be intimidated. If you show up at my door, tell me I'm going down a slippery slide, ooh, might be a recall. Not gonna happen. You're on video on my camera at home, Kelly. So I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that. So yes, tough decisions, folks. We're looking at everything.
I wasn't done yet, but
I'm sorry.
Am I wrong in saying that those positions are funded by the utilities?
Yes, you are right. The majority of the staff here at City Hall is funded through other budgets, but there is a percentage. And when we have a department head meeting next week, we will be looking at everything.
What that percentage is?
I don't know. We've been trying to get that information. Anything else?
That's
Mr.
why I'm
Antich?
saying, what good would it do to cut city staff, furlough them, give them days off, what have you? That isn't our problem. Our problem is in the general fund. You can't take the utilities money and put it into the general.
I understand, because it's a restricted fund.
Okay, so what good would it do to
So-
lay people off? Or-
So we are going to be looking at that, and we will bring it to the council at that time to give you the information to have a vote at that time. Any other comments from the council?
I have additional comments.
Okay,
Yeah, so as Linda indicated, some of the cuts that have already been explored or even pursued, they don't come out of the general fund. So they don't impact the fact that the general fund is going to run out of money in March. They are just general attempts to be more fiscally conservative. We're trying to pull everything back so that we can get to a balanced fiscal year before we start really looking at, okay, where do we have some breathing room and can move back into, hopefully a little bit more comfortable level of service that we can depend on. And we don't want to find ourselves in a situation where we have to we think we're in an okay place, and then we have to make another drastic cut, right? The best thing for us to do is pull back as much as we can afford to, and then look at, okay, now how much slack have we allowed ourselves, right? As you would in managing your own households, I'm sure, right? So, and I will just reiterate to the presentations that we just heard, however you cut it, the general fund's gonna run out of money. So in either case, we're gonna experience an interruption of services. I'm not even sure if we would be allowed to vote to adopt one of these presentations without an RFP, Steve?
At this time, my understanding, Steve,
You mean tonight?
Yeah.
No.
So we would have to put out an RFP for police service?
Well, it's my understanding that an RFP is going out to Aberdeen and Hopeland.
Okay, so-
We already have a proposal from the sheriff's office, but there's an RFP going out to the Aberdeen and Hopeland Police Department.
Is there a minimum number of proposals that we have to receive?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so I will just, underscore what I said before. What we're dealing with for the month of March is a short-term interruption of services, and what else I can't say. I think we're all wondering. But it is a different problem than the fiscal year's budget. And that is going to require us to look at solutions like this. It might mean that we look at the proposals for law enforcement service and realize we have to make this cut. But we're still waiting on the budget. We need to see what the budget looks like now that we've had an additional layoff. Just doing some napkin math myself, to me, the proposal for going to county, it doesn't look appealing yet. But I have more questions to ask. I need to see more information. I'm not biased in either way, for or against. I will tell you what I think is in the best interest of the city, and I will be as transparent about that decision-making as I possibly can. But I cannot do that if I do not have transparency myself, if I do not have the information myself. So my hope is that our next meeting will be very forthcoming with that information, and that we can give you a little bit clearer picture of what the future holds. But I also hope that you will not be overwhelmed with alarm and concern, because we are not exactly sure what the next month or two looks like. And for that matter, I'm not sure what the year looks like. We need a new budget proposal for the year. Revenue comes in different quarters, in different places, in different amounts. It's not as steady as your, biweekly paycheck that you get from work. So, we don't know if we get through March, are we good for quarter two already? Maybe we'll have more revenue in quarter two than we did quarter one, and we won't have any interruptions of service. Maybe it'll be worse, but right now we just don't have that information. So hope to have that for you soon. Thank you.
and with that, there was no RFP from any other department until I requested it. And then that just happened. So we will have those, because that's how we need to operate. We are not above any other city. We need to act accordingly when we are looking at contracting any other businesses. With that said, I've asked my city administrator, there've been conversations for the last couple months that the chief and one of our department heads said when we were brainstorming how to get revenue, what kind of assets, are there any property? We were told back in January by the city administrator there is. Following up, well, it's kind of wetlands. And I said, tell me, I don't care what it is, I want to find out how we look at it, how we get it out there, how can we sell it, how can we get that money in the budget. I hope in the next week, we're going to have some information when we come back at our next council meeting, that we're going to have some ideas and information for you, and that will all have to run through the council to be approved. But we are looking at everything. Any other comments?
Are you talking about the Jersey Inn property?
No.
I sent them all to you yesterday.
I got him today.
They were sent yesterday.
Okay. No, that's not it.
We also definitely have many small plots that are street side plots,
Yes.
like the one that we vacated recently on Main Street.
So just to assure you, before we go into public comment, we are working for you. We are working hard for you. We're not popular. This isn't, we're not here to be friends with you. We are here to do our jobs. You know, I'm retired. I'm probably putting in 30, 40 hours a week. You can ask my husband. He asks every night, when are you coming to bed? Yeah, I'm not half the time. So I want you to know, we're not in this because we don't care about every one of the staff. We care about them. I've worked with them when I was, did the nonprofit to build the city up, to improve it. I care about each one of them, and I've had great working relationship until I took this position, because I'm not making people happy. But we are working for you, and I want you to know that. So at this time, we will have public comments, only for agenda item, 3 minutes. If you go past that, I will gavel you down. Okay. Are you here as a citizen or a commissioner?
I'm here as a citizen.
Okay.
Vicki Rains, 7 Trinity Way, Cosmopolis. Mr. Nguyen, I know you're new to the council, but I believe I'm frustrated with your comments regarding asking staff directly in a public meeting if they're going to be working here next month. That's up to you. You guys run the purse strings. You guys run the purse strings. And you tell the mayor, you cut your budget, your general fund budget by X amount, and if she has to cut their salaries, that's what she does. You don't ask them in a public meeting to do that. That's highly, highly inappropriate. Highly inappropriate. And I think that, I talked to the mayor at the last meeting, not the last meeting, but the prior special meeting, that there's training out there for new council members to be able to understand. The word, when you run out of money, is pretty easy. It's bankrupt. Bankrupt is the term. I think that's one thing that the new council members need to understand is they control the purse strings. The mayor doesn't control the purse strings. The mayor administers what you give her to administer. And Kim, you brought up Councilmember Skinner, you brought up a comment on making these cuts, like the officer and the clerk, police clerk, as well as another clerk in City Hall. That has to make a difference. It does make a difference, but you also have to look at what revenue's coming in. And if that revenue isn't matching what was projected, then you've got a double issue, and you've got to stay on top of it, because some of the revenue doesn't come in until later in the year. I take offense, Mayor, to the comment about past administrations. That chief right there can tell you that we had a bed over in that police station. We went down to 3 officers and had a bed that they slept in and did shift duty to be able to. We went down to minimum of 3 people in public works during that time. We didn't have notice to be able to do much, to be able to reduce things, but we did cut. And I'm frustrated that we can play the blame game here. This is really frustrating to me. I'm not here to intimidate. I'm not here to stare you down. I voted for you, and I expect you guys to do the work that we asked you to do. But to sit there and say that it was past administrations, I look at, you got a couple public works people here that gave up their salaries year after year after year after year, increases, not 1, 2, or 3 years, more years, so that they could keep their medical. So that they could keep their medical. They paid for it. They've already paid for it. And they do have co-pays. It's the premium that the city's currently paying, but they do have co-pays. If you have to negotiate and not pay that premium, then so be it. I have been working on a piece of property with where the Hope homeless shelter was supposed to go. I'd hoped to be able to have a buyer in that would be able to do some work on that property, but unfortunately, I don't know if that buyer's gonna want to do something. So you wanted to bring in business? Here we go. You got another person that's a large business owner in Cosmopolis that is being frustrated, and I think we're all frustrated. I'm here to help. I've called you numerous times and offered my help. I came in and visited with you and Darren and Julie last week to offer my help. And I feel like it's a slap in the face that you don't want to listen to.
Thank you. Your time's up.
You could have Cheryl Turner,
Your time's
8.5 and a half.
Cheryl has yielded to me for her 3 minutes. I just want to make sure,
Before you
that
continue, please stop. I want to see if there's anybody else. Yes, you can do that, unless there was somebody else that would like to make a comment. Okay? Please.
Candace Marks, 305
Okay.
G Street, I will
Okay,
give my
please.
3 minutes to Vicky.
Okay, anybody else?
Teresa Broughton, 2025 first, you can have my 3 minutes.
Okay, so we're not gonna give you 9 minutes here, but we will give you another 3
Why
minutes.
can't you? Why can't you? Why can't you?
Your decision.
It is my decision as mayor, and I am going to give you 3 more minutes.
To a city and county commissioner.
She's not acting as a commissioner. Are we clear? You're a citizen tonight?
I'm a citizen because I've already had the finger pointed at me by you about bringing the sheriff in to help with giving some resolve. And the reason for that was because I am a commissioner and we do the budget for the sheriff's office.
So we'll go ahead and start.
I'll finish my comments though, that I really think that the city council needs to, one, listen to the public, and I think the mayor needs to listen to her staff. Justin's brought this up a couple of times, Jim seconded it before. It's not rocket science. You wanna wait for additional proposals? Great, I think that's a great idea. I don't think you're going to get better proposals for the same coverage, but that's great if you wanna do that. Just realize that you're going into the hole, and we will have to bail you out of that hole in some regards. There are 16 funds, is what was mentioned, but many of those are dedicated or miscellaneous funds that can only be spent on certain things. So it's not free cash to cover $60-some thousand. And what does that $60-some thousand turn to at the end of April? Or the end of May, or the end of June, because you said, Mr. Wynn, Q2, the end of Q2, that you'd see some leeway. I don't know what the answers are either, but we're trying to give suggestions. And it's frustrating when we play the blame game or put people on the spot that they have no control over the situation that they're doing now. That's your control. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, please state your name. Let me go ahead and.
I represent two companies here. One would be my wife and I's businesses in Cosmopolis, and the Pape Group that's investing millions of dollars in this community right now, that we are willing to pull. I'll make that very clear. And I have the power to do that depending on the direction of this council. So
Excuse me, I didn't hear that last comment.
Yeah, what's that, sir?
Can I hear that last comment again?
Yes, I'm with the Pape Group, and we're investing millions of dollars down the street right there that we are willing to pull out of, depending on the direction
And
of
what
this council.
position are you with?
I am the general manager for Washington and Alaska for Pape.
Okay.
Okay. And I also own River Run RV Park and several parcels within the community. And the direction of this means a lot. So I'd like to respectfully disagree with a comment that you made earlier. And you and I have always had very good conversation. I think you're a very nice lady. But this city is above any other damn city in Grace Harbor. And you said you're not better than any other city, and you are. The city of Cosmopolis is a place that I personally desire, and I have brought companies to because it's a desirable place to do business. Because the city of Aberdeen, and that the press is here, so be it. It sucks. If you've ever done business there, it's not a place you want to do business. This is a place you want to do business because of the people on the council, because of your public works department, and because of your police force. So as a person who manages about $300 million in revenue per year, you have an expense issue, but you have a massive revenue issue. And the only way to get it to the bottom is to have a top. You can't expense your way out of this. What happens when you expense your way out of this is you get annexed, and you'll be a very short-term mayor for that, not from a recall perspective, but because you're broke. So you have to figure out a way to get the top line. Without a top line, there is no bottom line. So what I would highly recommend, I think Mr. Collette made a great point earlier, in that they have, this community has continued to survive many, many conflicts and many times of economic downturns. And we're definitely in one. Vote right. But you can't get there unless you understand the percentages of revenue that each department costs you. So when I ask a question about what percentage of revenue do the public works departments cost the general fund, the fact that we've all been in here for, I'm gonna assume since January 1, that we don't have that answer is crazy concerning. Because you can't manage what you can't measure. I hope you all take that to heart. You can't manage what you can't measure. If you don't know how much those guys cost you as a percentage of your general fund, you have a bigger problem. And you have to look at the tables. And that's not a shot at anybody. Keith and his team have been wonderful to my wife and I at River Run and when we owned the building prior to selling it to Pape. They were always, can I speak on behalf of Pape now? I'm two businesses. Is that okay? I'm not trying to rip anybody here. I'm just saying.
No, I think,
I need you guys to manage to the top. Because if you have a top, you'll get a bottom. And without your public works guys, there is no top because businesses aren't coming to call the city of Aberdeen and wait 6 months for a permit to do anything. They're looking to do business with a city like Cosmopolis that is better than all the cities in Graves Harbor. It's not even close.
okay, so I'm gonna stop you now. So what I'd like, and you have a nice support group, as does Vicky and as does the Danvers group. So you took my comment out of context, as did Daniel's last meeting. When I said COSI is not above, we are not above following procedure when we put out for services. We want to do it across the board. I agree with you. COSI is an amazing city. I love it. I wouldn't be putting in the time. I wouldn't have raised funds to do to develop a nonprofit group to improve our parks. I think we are exceptional. I love it. To say that we're like any other city in Grays Harbor, we're not. We're unique. So please don't take my comment out of context. It's about following procedures with RFP that we need to look at everything when it comes to policing. We all want to keep our police department, but we have to look at the best offer on the table. And not more than once have I heard, oh, if I were to get rid of our city administrator, we're not going to invest. Heard it several times from the Daniel group. We're not going to be intimidated. We're not going to be threatened. And I'm saying you didn't, no, I'm saying, not, you didn't say that to me. Miss Daniels showed up at my doorstep and said that to me. I have it on video. I'm happy to share it.
Please do.
And so I will do that, okay?
All I'm saying is your
So I'm
public works
just saying,
department encourages
please,
businesses to come here.
please stop.
They don't come here for, and I love Heath, but they
Thank
don't
you.
come to COSI to do business with the police department.
Right,
They come here to do business with the city.
so I need you to stop, please. So what I am saying is, we appreciate our staff. I don't know what is going to happen, but to come up here, Ms. Daniels said to councilmen at the last meeting, oh, she wouldn't know what to do with her business if Administrator Raines was here.
Well, I think I'll speak on my behalf.
You need to
instead of
sit
having-
down, Kelly.
I don't
Sit
need to speak
down.
on my behalf.
Sit down. Sit down.
Let her have a chance to respond.
So we want to support your business. We want to support Daniel's. We want to support everyone here. Everyone. We want to work with you. We know how fortunate we are to have you and have the Daniels group here. And we want to welcome you and work with you. But every time we turn around, we get that comment. That's not okay. That's not okay, especially when we're working hard for you. Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Kelly Daniels, 316 First Street. Linda, thank you for trying to speak on
And you
me.
can say Mayor
Mayor
Springer.
Springer, yes. Thank you for trying to speak on my behalf. I came to your door to offer help, as you know. And my point to Darren was, when you're in business, you have to have a city administrator, and I don't know what we would do without the city administrator for all the help that he's given. When we recruited Peterbilt from the I-5 corridor, Darren was crucial in getting that company to come down here for many years. When we recruited Kenworth from the I-5 corridor and for Eugene, Oregon, the Pape Group, Darren sat in meetings with the mayor at the time and city council members and the CEO of these companies. And when those CEOs of those companies left, they said, we've never been more impressed with your city administrator. So when I say, I can't imagine what I would do without the city administrator, when you're in business, you have to have a city administrator. And I brought a little visual for everybody, because when you have a city administrator, it's open for business. And when you don't have a city administrator, it's closed for business. That is exactly how that works. And so when you have a business person in your community, Linda, and they rave about your staff, it's a good thing. Really quick, Aberdeen Police Department could be on the table. We could discuss having Aberdeen provide police services. In my belief, we are just a few years down the road with a different council and a different mayor, where they will say, fire services, your building inspector, you get your water from Aberdeen, and pretty soon, all your services come from Aberdeen, and so I don't want annexation discussions to start. I'm afraid of that. Will it happen? I don't know. I can't see in the future, but I'm very, very nervous about having talks about having Aberdeen also provide police services. I don't want our city to leave. I don't want to become Aberdeen, and I don't want us to go down that road. Councilmember Nguyen, the people that can answer those questions, which is the mayor's job to get the answer, it's the Department of Revenue and the state auditor. Those are the people that will tell you what happens when you're bankrupt. We're down to 65,000 projected budget next month, Q1. We won't even make it to Q2, Councilmember Nguyen. We're down to 63,000 in the hole. That's next month. We have to make these decisions. This meeting is important, and the decisions need to be made immediately, and we continue to kick the can down the road. We have no time left. I appreciate the sheriff being here and providing us services, because as community members and businesses, we want to make sure that we have 365 days a week, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day coverage for law enforcement. We have businesses. The Pepe Group is here tonight. If you'd like to meet with them, they can tell you how many millions they will bring to this community, and they're here representing this. How embarrassing.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to give me another 3 minutes, I've got more to
So
share.
any other comments?
825, gonna have Cheryl Critters.
Okay.
I'm gonna give that to Kelly.
No, so this attorney just advised me that we can't continue like this. I appreciate, and again, to the Pepe Group, please know that we appreciate you, we value you, and you're right. You will be a great asset in this
I will tell
community.
you that just last year, excuse me, sorry, man. There you go. Sorry, man. Just to give you an idea of the revenues that Pat generated for the city of Aberdeen, so you guys know, this year will be a much larger year, and this is an election year, and we all know the election years in business are pretty tough. They're tough. So we are actually experiencing a down year, year over year. But last year we wrote a check, and this can be all fact checked if you want. Last year we paid a little over $85,000 in B&O taxes to the city of Aberdeen, and a little over $70,000 in B&O the prior year. That's all coming here. There's a $3 million, if we can get the current architectural group that we are working with to finish the plans and get through all of the flood stuff. Just, there's a lot going on there. A $3 million overhaul that's about to happen to the gateway of Cosmopolis. And the Pepe Group is the greatest company you'll ever have a chance to deal with. They are wonderful people, the best. And they are willing to put the money into this community. But we have to be doing business with a community. We can't be doing business with a town and then doing business in the other town, taking care of the needs that we have when the sewer line goes bad, or when our water line is broken and we don't know, but we can't monitor the meter, but the city can. And that's a big deal, because that can go really quick, as some of you may have, and I have experienced, where if you got a water line that's broken, you don't know, except for when you get the bill, and then you go, oh my gosh, right? But you have a great city here with great people that monitor the businesses and help them continue to grow their business, which will grow your city, which is tax revenue for you guys, and then has people that are excited to come into your town. This town is extraordinary. It's awesome. And it's full of great people. And I know everybody's intents are the same, which is to make it better. And you're right, madam, there are a lot of tough decisions that need to be made. But I just highly recommend that you guys get figured out, get yourself a set of KPIs and drill them. 3 things, all that matter. All of them are related to expense as a percentage of revenue. Figure those out. And if you drill those, this city will flourish again. And it will attract more business to your town.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. If there isn't any other comments tonight, we are going to Mr. Davis.
Steve Davis, 825 Fifth. Wow. In January, I sent each council member, the mayor, and the city administrator an email with a list of recommendations. The first of which was to declare a financial state of emergency. The reason for that is many, but basically it raises awareness. Hey, look, we are working under an emergent situation. My background here for years in the fire department meant that when you have an emergency, you work as hard and long as it takes to get through the process. That's what needs to happen now. I'm surprised that we don't have the financial information in front of you, in front of the council members. I'm surprised. We need to get it. If we can't provide it with the staff we have, we need to look outside. When I say this is an option, I'm told by the mayor, I called the state, and they said we can't do that. That's really not an answer. You can't ask, you just can't ask, you have to ask further than that. All these things are possible. We saw what Mayor Kyle Pauley did under the COVID emergency and the powers that held. So a financial state of emergency does hold powers. It allows you to do certain things. Historically, what we've done in Cosmopolis is we have taken from funds we've had, we've covered things. Whether we were supposed to or not, that's just kind of how it happened. We were educated now, and we understand we really can't do that. However, there are options out there. We can go to the bank, and we can borrow money to get through this. But like several people have said tonight, you have to know what your assets are, and you have to know what you got and when you're gonna pay it back. That's the emergent need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kelly?
I'd like 3 more minutes if I could, please. Because I think tonight's about ideas and about sharing and trying to get to the bottom of a few things. We have a proposal tonight on the table by the Sheriff's Department. Corey's right. When you start looking at your assets as a community, we have a bunch of assets. We have this building, and we have a new building that was passed by the bond, which is about 15,000 square feet. Thinking outside the box, because that's what we're gonna have to do. If we do contract with the county for law enforcement services, then perhaps we rent back a portion of these buildings to the county. The county is in desperate need of space, office space. These are ideas, but this is how you get revenue back into the city. So we need to explore those things, and perhaps, working with the Sheriff's Department, we can use some of our assets. Perhaps we can sell some of our law enforcement cars and different things like that in order to save that. Steve, we do have projections. You can request them at the city, and the staff has provided those, and that's how we know that based at the end of March, we're at 64,000 in the hole. So we do have projections, and the finances were given to the city council members. The reason that we don't know about the question that Jeremy Nguyen asked, Councilman Nguyen asked, is a very good one, is because that is an official request that the mayor would have to do to the auditor and the Department of Revenue, which likely then would spur a audit onto our books. And then we could go into bankruptcy. And so those are the things that could happen. It's the mayor's responsibility to go and find out those answers. And so if you're frustrated that you don't have the answers, Mayor, that's your job, is to seek those out and to get those answers. But it is from the Department of Revenue and from the State Auditor's Office. I'm just looking here on any of my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. I think that the new building could be a blessing in disguise that was passed by the voters. I think that there's opportunity there where we could partner with the county and a bunch of different departments at the county. And I would just plead with you to make these decisions quickly, because I don't think we're gonna get past Q1. And we're gonna have to make decisions in the next week in order to get this budget in order. because we're gonna be in the red.
Thank you. I appreciate that information, and I've been reaching out to my financial director almost on a daily basis, but I will be calling the state and the Department of Revenue tomorrow morning, and I will be following up on that. We're gonna go with one more question, and then we're going to adjourn the meeting, and I appreciate everyone's comments. Again, we appreciate your business. Know that we are working hard for each and every one of you. Okay, one more question.
Cheryl Turner, 825 2nd Street. So I have a feeling that the council members don't really know how the funds work, which would make a difference. For the public works, when they work in water, they get paid out of water. When they work in sewer, they get paid out of sewer. When they work in street, they get paid out of street. They do not work in parks and cemetery because that's part of current fund. So what they work in does not affect current fund. Thank you, Jim, for bringing that up. Does not affect current fund at all. So furloughing those guys, like you said, would be ridiculous. There'd be no point to it. They have, for the last 3 years, and I hate to say this, but for the last 3 years, they were given raise and did not take those raises just so they could keep their medical. And the only department that did take a raise in the last 3 years, for the last 3 years, is the police department. And that was a union contract. So you guys need to find out how things actually work, and then it might make it a little easier. So in current fund, police is paid totally out of the current fund, and you have no money in current fund. So I'm not sure how you figure you're gonna be able to even pay your police officers when there's no money. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. And we do understand the general fund where we're deficit, and that's where the police are paid from. We understand that all the other salaries are divided among the other funds, but thank you very much. So we're gonna call the meeting to, thank you. I hope that all of you show up at the next meeting. If we have a meeting sooner than our regular scheduled council meeting, it will be out there. If you have questions, if you don't agree with us, if you have comments or suggestions, please reach out to us, okay? Please reach out to us. Call, make an appointment, send an email, okay? Thank you. Meeting's adjourned.
Still going down.
Meeting.